Hello everybody, welcome to Tree Doctors. We're starting the program from the beautiful campus of Harding University in Searcy. We're going to catch up with the head tree doctor of Dickey Tree Service, Ed Dickey, and he's going to give you some tips on how to take care of your trees. It's all coming up right now on Tree Doctors.
You know, some trees have insect problems, some just have construction damage. Well, we can handle them both generally at the same time. I'm using a soil injection here, building a mold of chemicals all around the root ball. It gets translocated into the crown of the tree. It has a very long residual. Stays working for a year or better, killing insects as well as growing new feeder roots and increasing the canopy of the tree. 9 different chemicals is going in this at once. So there's so much we can do that we used to couldn't do, and it's in most cases it's cheaper than it used to be. And just name me just any one thing that's come down in price. Well, taking care of your trees have come down in price. Give us a call. You'll be surprised. We're the Tree Doctor, Dickey Tree Service, in your yellow pages under trees.
Let's go out in the field with the head tree doctor of Dickey Tree Service, Ed Dickey, right now on Tree Doctors.
You know, we've mentioned several times how to protect your young trees after you plant them. Here they put a little bamboo stake, but they've also used some rabbit wire. And that lets the air and the sun and the rain get to it and keeps the critters away. You can also use plastic, like I've showed before, that opens up that goes around that. But just any way to keep your weed eaters and your squirrels and your rabbits and stuff from chewing it. Even field mice will chew the bark off of there if you don't watch it when they're young like that. They like that young bark. But try to protect them when they're young, and they'll protect themselves after a few years. We're here in Searcy, and we're on the campus of the Harding University, and here with me is Danny Uramus. And Danny, why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about what your duties are here with the college and a little bit about the college.
I'm the physical resource director, which takes care of all the physical aspects of the buildings, the grounds, plumbing, electrical, construction, painting, all the physical aspects, and that's what I'm in charge of. We got about a little less than 50 employees that take care of all the aspects of the school.
Right, and the university had hired me to do some work here, writing the plans for the trimming of these trees here, and it's a beautiful campus here, by the way. Also, I noticed you have a lot of construction going on around here. Kind of tell the viewers a little bit about what's going on now.
During the summertime, when the bulk of the kids leave, we try to do our major building projects. Like right now, we're remodeling 2 dormitories to make them, they had gang showers. We're trying to give individual suites and create that. We are in the process of redoing our main administrative building for where the president lives and all the vice presidents where they stay, and we're trying to make that into a better building. We need more space, and that's the 3 main projects we've got, along with the grounds here and trimming of the trees and stuff that we're looking at doing quite extensively this summer.
Yes, sir. And I've worked in Searcy for years, and I never have noticed how large this university is. How many students and how big a school is this?
We have probably overall in all of our campuses probably around 60, well, a little less than 6,000 students. Living here, we're probably about 3,600 right here on this campus during the big school year. And then we have a couple of overseas campuses, and then we have a couple of we have a grad school over in Memphis, and then we have a couple of continuing education, one in North Little Rock, and we just opened one in Bentonville.
That is super. How many acres does this take up here?
It's about 220 for this campus and the main part here.
So you got a lot to take care of just right here on this campus, don't you?
Well, there's a lot of good people that go into taking care of this, and Johnny Ferguson's our grounds department director, and he does a great job, and his staff do a wonderful job of taking care of the campus.
Yeah, right, and Johnny's the one who actually called me in here a few weeks ago about these trees, and we're going to interview him in a little bit. And the cameraman John has took some different shots when we got here of the different places you got here, but there's no way it's going to show the beauty that I see here. It's just so shaded, and it's just a cool campus, isn't it?
It's very beautiful. We get quite a few comments on our plants, our flowers, and all the things that bloom at this different times of the year. It's just really beautiful.
What I noticed, it was so shady, and you have the swings and the resting places. So I'm used to the benches. I'm a bench man, but y'all got y'all first class. They got the swings.
Swings are swings. There's a lot of stories that go along with the swings about who's been proposed to in each swing, and they want to make sure their swing's back where it was when they come back in 30 years, and that's the one they proposed in. There's a lot of stories like that.
Isn't that neat? Well, you've got a whole lot of unusual trees here, and we're going to move around here and talk about one or two of them.
All righty.
Danny, we moved around here to, I think this is the bell tower close to us, isn't it?
That's correct.
And this is a burl on this tree here, B-U-R-L on this, and no one really knows for sure how they're created. They're it's not a parasite, it's just a burl, and this is one that should be in one of our tree books. A lot of people got different words for what it is, but it's a burl. And this is just one of the many different trees on this campus. How old? Tell a little bit about the history, Danny, of the Harding University and this campus and all of it.
Harding was started in Morrilton back in I believe it was 28 or 29, and then in 32 or 3 they bought Galloway Women's College, which is here located in Searcy. Harding was started in Morrilton. They purchased the women's college here, then they went ahead and just moved the whole college one summer from over there to from Morrilton to Searcy, set it up, and one of the buildings right behind us is Patty Cobb and the bell tower. Those two structures were here when they purchased it from Galloway Women's College. There's a placard on the bell tower and one over on Patty Cobb that talks about Galloway Women's College and a little bit about its founding. Well, we've been here since the early 30s. There was about 4 major structures on campus at that time. We have since, one of them that was here where the administration building is, has been torn down because of structural defects and some things. But we still have the 3, the bell tower, Patty Cobb, and an old Hendricks, which is our nursing facility, that are still on campus. We still use them every day. We continue to do upkeep and maintenance on those and keep them going. Fact is, we're doing a remodel on Patty Cobb this year to try to make it a little bit more energy efficient and do some things like that. And the plan is to be done by August 1st. We got to be done before the girls get here, and that's what we're hustling to do.
Right. Yeah, I noticed that while I was here, you had some extensive work taking that. I think it's a concrete layer around the top that y'all are removing and motorizing it and all over, aren't you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Adding some air conditioning, some moisture control to it, and different things like that too.
How long have you been on campus here or with the campus?
I started as a student in 1977. I went to work full-time for the Physical Resource Department in 1982, and so I've been basically full-time for 23 years.
Oh, a long time then. Well, you know a lot of these trees well. I guess this tree was been talked about by many people.
By many. There's always had that knot on them, and everybody wants to know what that is and why is it there, and you know, we don't know. It was there when I come here.
Right. It's definitely a conversation piece, and it's a cool old tree, especially hanging over that old bell tower. It dates back to the 1800s.
Yes, sir. Sure is.
Danny, we're here in one of these swings we talked about earlier, and tell me a little bit about this little different swing, isn't it?
Yes, sir. This one here is we changed the frame out to a metal frame, so we don't have to, it doesn't rot near as bad. Now we've kept the old wood swing part, but the frame is, they can't carry these off near as bad and move them around, and They seem to be lasting very well, but it's on the same pattern as the wood one.
Oh yeah, well, you'd have to tap on it to know it's steel. It just still looks like wood.
Yep.
It's just such a great campus you have here, and I appreciate taking a minute out of your busy day to visit with us. And if you'll let us, I'd like to come back after y'all have this trimming done I wrote the specs on, and we'll talk about what goes on in the campus, and and the construction will be done at that time too, if you'll let us come back.
Well, we sure will. We sure we thank you for the time that you put in to help us with our trees, because that's one aspect that we haven't really focused on till this year, and we want to get that done. And we called you in to help us, and you graciously accepted, and you can take all the pictures you need.
Well, I thank you, and we'll be coming back to talk to you, and we appreciate Johnny Ferguson too, and we're going to be saying a little bit more to him here after a while, but thank you, Danny.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I want to give you a tip about taking care of your young trees. All you need is a 5-gallon bucket, and you can drill a hole with a little 3/16 drill, or take a 16-penny nail, either one. Knock a hole in it. Set that bucket, around your young planted trees. Every morning, fill that bucket up. That bucket will empty during that day. The next day, you do the same. That way you know how much water you're giving it each day. But here's the trick of it. After that bucket empties, the next day you move that bucket up a little bit. Fill it up there, let it empty. As a week goes by, you've already circled this tree at least once. So you're making the roots expand from this. You don't want to leave this bucket in one spot. By moving that bucket around every time you fill it up. Now if you got a lot of time and a lot of water, you can fill it up in the morning, you can fill it up at night. So the bucket's going to make 2 or 3 trips around that tree in a week. But either way, if you want your trees to get off to a good start, you can do that. Now research has showed that if you put a little sugar in there with that water, about a couple tablespoons each time, that your tree's going to do a whole lot better. It's going to make them fiber roots expand a whole lot quicker than they normally would. Now this just works on young plants. So that will help aid its coming on out too. And if you want to add some creative stuff like Miracle Grow or something as the plant gets bigger, you can do that and use your bucket as a drippolator. You don't have to, because you'll find that water is really all these young plants are wanting. You give them enough water, don't overwater and don't underwater, your tree is just going to grow and grow, and it'll outgrow that one over there they fertilize and feed every day if you lay out water to it. So take care of them trees with that water, and that's a little bucket tip I want to pass on. We're here in Jonesboro, and here with me is Nancy Germer. And Nancy, why don't you tell the viewers what was going on with your trees when you called us in?
Well, we noticed that the maple tree out front had some brown leaves on it, and here it is, springtime, and it should be looking pretty. But we just put some sod down under the maple, and we thought maybe the sod was killing the tree. So I'd seen you on TV, and I called you, and I said, hey, we got a problem. And you said, yes, we do have a problem. You've got borers in that tree. So it's not the sod. We can leave the sod. But while you were here and looking at the maple tree, you found this wonderful ash over here that was infected with borers also. So you are treating them both, and we're preserving them on this old piece of property in Jonesboro.
It sure is old, and while I was talking with Nancy a little bit off camera, she showed me this hole here is about 12 or 15 foot up, and what lived up there for a while?
Well, we saw an owl in that hole, a pretty little owl.
Okay, so
yeah.
It is an old big tree, and this house has got a lot of history. When was this house built?
Yes, it does. It was built in 1903 by E.C. Barton, who was one of the original owners of Barton Lumber Company. And this was his first home that he built for his bride, and it's 103 years old now. We just love it. We love it. It's called the American Four Square. And it's been updated. It was updated in 1985 with new plumbing and new electrical by the former owners, the Lewises, who owned it. And then we bought it in 1998, and we just feel like we're living in a museum.
Oh yes, it's a gorgeous home.
Thank you.
And we're going to move a little bit around here to this maple and see the house a little better and talk a little more if you don't care.
All right.
Nancy, we moved around here to the front side of your beautiful home. We're underneath this maple that you originally called me about. And tell me where you're from and what you was talking off camera about what happens up there in Virginia.
Well, I'm from Richmond, Virginia, and all the southern plantations, when you go there to those old homes, they have beautiful old trees on the property. Almost all of them have lightning rods in them to protect them.
Yes, ma'am. Well, down south, we're a little smarter than that. We don't do that, you know. We wait till lightning hits them, but I'm getting them to change their way of thinking a little bit. We've got a few in around, but they do save trees, don't they?
Yes, they do, and I know it's really a good investment when they're old and it takes that many years to get that big. You might as well protect them if you can afford them, and I know that people can afford them.
Oh, that's right. And just one little zap and that tree with all that care is gone.
That's true.
And like the large ash, and I think the camera's showing it that we was originally under, it's easy to see that tree's 100 years or better old.
Right, right. Yeah, it's an oldie. And I want to show you one out back too, an oak that's probably older than that.
Well, we'll move around there if you don't care.
Okay.
And Nancy, this is an enormous oak tree. Do you have any idea how old this tree is?
No, that's the question I wanted to ask you. What do you think, 150 maybe?
I would put it there somewhere thereabouts. Trees grow extremely well here on this ridge here in Jonesboro, but this is such an exceptionally large tree. It's going to pass the 100 mark up towards the 150, I would believe.
Yeah, it's really a monster, isn't it?
And it seems to be in fairly good health. And in the, how did you word it?
I said this, you told me this was a cherry tree, and I said it's a cherry tree in the arms of an oak. It's growing right in the roots.
It sure is. That was well put. And they're both doing pretty well, other than a few ants in the wild cherry. But this is just an enormous oak. I know that you've got to love this property, and you can see where all the little acorns has fell in trying to repropagate yourself between the mowings.
Well, the worst part is getting up the leaves in the fall.
Oh yeah, but other than that, it's just a piece of cake.
It's a wonderful old tree, and we love the property. We love everything about it.
Right. Yeah, I can see why you was thinking about a lightning rod for this tree, because it's your tallest tree, and it's your biggest, oldest tree, I think.
Yeah, I believe it is. It is.
Well, Nancy, I appreciate you taking time to tell our viewers about your property and your trees, and we liable to stop here in the near future and see what I did does on your trees.
Well, thank you so much for coming, Mr. Dickey, and taking care of us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
You know, sometimes our trees slowly start to uproot. You can see here where this root ball is coming out of the ground. They called me in to see what could be done about this tree, and it's got to the point where it's actually dangerous. One good heavy rain could make it go on over, and you can see by the prevailing lean of this thing that the weight is going to make it come over. I told the people to use a prop method, a double prop method, with a crossbar at the bottom to hold it up. And if you really wanted to get really technical with it, you could use it like a hand. You know, 4 fingers and a thumb, and put on there, giving that tree a helping hand if you want to. In fact, the groundskeeper here, Johnny Ferguson, he's thinking about doing that. So next time we're down in this Searcy area, we'll look and see if they got that done. But if you give that tree, as Johnny Ferguson said, a helping hand, you'll help that tree and save that tree. We're here in Jonesboro with Andy Simpson. And Andy, why don't you tell the viewers what was going on with this dogwood tree a year or so ago when you called me in?
Well, Ed, one day I came out and it was such a pretty day, and I looked at my dogwood tree and I decided that I just didn't look right. It looked like it was a little bit sparse, and I decided to call you because I saw your 6 a.m. broadcast on the television on KAIT, and thought we might come out and do whatever you do to these trees to put the zap back in the sap, or whatever it is that you say on the commercial.
Yes, sir, and that's what I did. And Andy, this is an old dogwood, isn't it? You have any idea how old it is?
Well, I really don't have any idea. I know that this house was built in 1958, and I know that the tree was there at the time as well. So, but I'm sure it's at least that old.
Right. It's unusual to see a dogwood that big around, and we're going to do our best to keep it healthy. And it's been well, we was just talking off camera. It's been well over a year since I treated, and Andy's going to have me treated again just to keep it looking good, aren't you?
That's exactly right, Ed. I tell you what, we were so impressed with the results last time that we decided to have you come on out again. And I tell you what, I appreciate it because we really enjoy this tree and we want to keep it looking good for years to come.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you, Andy, and we might visit back with you in months to come, and we'll see how this your dogwood's doing.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you. You know, I get a lot of people still asking about effects that vines have on trees, and like I mentioned several times, if you cut them down here and jump up and pull the vines off, let them die out above it, and then kind of monitor them later on, that keeps them getting back up here. Just kind of clip them off as you're out in your yard. You can keep them controlled. I don't like trees that have the vines on it, but the reason being you can't monitor what's happening to the trunk, and that's where the trunk of the tree is the most vulnerable point to really cause great harm to the tree is the trunk, and that's where your borers are going to be seen. So you just need to be able to look at that, and plus if you do any preventive maintenance spraying and stuff, you need to be able to get to that area. So these people here, I guess, took my word and got rid of the vines, and they died out up above it. Now they can pull these dead vines off and it looks like a tree again. But they're still keeping their ivy down here just by clipping it back when it tries to grow up the tree. So you can have the best of both worlds. You got your ivy, you got your tree too. We're here in Jonesboro with Gene and Cheryl Strasser, and won't you tell the viewers a little bit about what was going on with your trees when you called me in?
Well, we have a cemetery of trees here, and last summer, in fact about August, started looking at this tree, and it had a yellow cast to it, and I knew something was wrong.
Yes, sir.
So I didn't know what to do, and I knew I didn't want to lose the tree, so we gave you a call.
Yes, sir, and they're planted just ideally, and Gene, you like these trees a lot too, don't you?
Oh, I sure do. And it was dropping its leaves, I forgot to tell you that. And it was just, all over the place. We just moved here about a year ago.
Yes, ma'am. And what the tree was doing was trying to tell you that there's something wrong, and I've got a lot of history for this tree. I guess you noticed the tree out front where I repaired that cavity.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show that on the show where we fixed that several years ago. Who was the people that did own this house?
Jeannie and Bill Roberts. And they loved, this is a one-owner home. His Bill's dad had owned it before him and built the house. And so they had really loved this yard and all, but they were getting older and didn't want to take care of it anymore.
Yes, ma'am, and they really took care of it because when they had me do that tree surgery on that, put that concrete in that tree out there, instead of cutting it, because it's a main tree, just like these other ones that y'all had me take care of.
Yeah, we didn't.
Well, I noticed you're planting a whole lot of trees, too.
Oh, I'm planting some. I'm a tree person. I like trees.
Oh,
I had some pine trees out here, and they were just sucking out all the moisture, and I didn't want those out there. Pine cones and things that were hard to keep clean. So I decided to put, I'm putting some paper birch out there and some of these lace bark elm. And I hope that'll look good in a few years.
Oh, I know it will. And your wife, Jean, was telling me you've creative with garden spots you got out back too.
No, I'm just always been a gardener all my life, and I always have to have a little postage stamp sized garden.
Right. Well, if you don't care, we'll move around there and we'll talk about that garden.
Okay. There's not much to see, but we can go look at it.
Sure. Won't you tell the viewers a little bit about what's going on with all these tomatoes you got?
Well, I think the secret to growing tomatoes is getting them out early in the spring, real early. And that means carrying them through the colder part of March and April. And then usually you can remove all protection in April, about the middle of April. But what I have is some water jackets. They're about 18 inches wide and 18 inches tall, and you fill them with water, and they'll hold a temperature at 16 degrees. It can go down to 16 degrees and not harm the plant. So when you take that off in April, when you pull it off in the middle of April, it's already 18 inches high and growing through the top.
I'll be doggone.
So it really produces.
So you protect them well, and then when you do turn them loose, they're going on, aren't they?
Yeah, and I put quite a bit of Epsom salts and ironite and a lot of phosphate, very little nitrogen, and I think they set more fruit that way. They're not big and rank, but they do have a lot of fruit, as you can see.
You're talking about the inexpensive Epsom salt that you get, and
yeah.
right, same kind you soak your hand in.
Yeah.
I always soak my hand, then pour it on the plant. I get double use for my stuff.
Oh,
How many kinds of tomatoes you got out here?
4 or 5 varieties. 4 or 5 varieties. I've got some determinate and indeterminate. These that are so loaded are called determinate. In other words, they make most of their tomatoes at one time and then they die. And these bigger tomatoes over here will produce until frost kills them. They're the indeterminate variety.
Right. Well, I'm going to give you a feedback on them tomatoes because your wife gave me a few earlier, and I'm going to eat them things now.
Okay. Well, I think you'll like them.
But you're really tell the viewers a little bit about what you're doing with a straw too.
Oh, it's just to keep it moist under the ground. It was dry back in April. You know, we had 94 degrees back in April, and I decided to put some straw on it.
Now you water every day, or
No, about once a week.
once a week? So it's kind of just problem free then in a way, isn't it?
Much, yeah. Most of the work is done real early in the spring.
Huh.
It's just a matter of keeping them a little moist and picking the fruit.
Well, that's the kind of garden
So
to
my
have.
wife can give them away to someone.
There you go. I told him about her giving them while he was gone, but I will eat them up. You know, I couldn't resist just taking a break here on these benches. You know, in my 38 years of treating trees and dealing with trees, I don't think I have ever found a bench that was unused where there were trees close by. So common sense to tell you that's a good place to put a bench, close to where trees are, because it gets well used. And like I'm using this one right here, and this is a pretty new little deal here. They just did this. So enjoy your yard. And if you want something to add to it, put a bench out there and enjoy it a little bit more. You'll be glad you did. You know, great strides have been made in the chemical community as the technology come available now where you don't need to cumbersome capsules to treat a tree, and we can put actually 9 or 10 different products at one time in a tree. You can see it boiling out from around the base of that as I'm injecting this into the soil ball. Amino acids, different miticides, insecticides. We can choose what we want to treat for, and we get a long residual from this. So you get a year's worth of good or longer out of our injection when we do a tree. An actual molt of chemicals put around your tree, and it's all moisture activated. So as the weather hits it or the rain, it supercharges it again and carries through the tree. So to get rid of your unwanted insects or to revive a tree to put new life in it, you know, that's what we do. We put the zap back in the sap. We give new life to old trees. That's what we do. We're the tree doctors. Dickey Tree Service in your yellow pages under trees.
Well, that's all the time we have for Tree Doctors today. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, if you need to get a hold of Dickey Tree Service, you can call the number below or go to dickeytree.com. Thanks again. We'll see you next time for Tree Doctors.